Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Mpho and I've got Tim Delace here with me. This is your weekly South African cricket podcast. We got mostly come live on Mondays, but some weeks we have a double week, we have a triple week, and the only way you can find out we have a double or a triple week is if you follow us on X, on Full Quota Pod on X, and subscribe to the Full Quota Podcast YouTube channel, as well as for those audio lovers, Full Quota Podcast and Apple Podcast and Spotify. And also for those who want to support us and keep supporting us to ensure that we have more double, triple weeks, maybe even quadruple weeks, please help us buy some coffee at Buy Me Coffee at / Full Quota Pod. Everything is in the byline there at the bottom as I wipe my screen, trying to figure out why I look very blurry, but that's okay. It's an away game. I'm not at home, so that's fine. I do apologize if I look quite blurry because that's something that irritates me, but that's okay. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. I know you commented on it earlier because you are at the same city that I am for a change, but sun has finally arrived at this side of the world, so all's good.
But supposedly tomorrow it's going to be raining. It's going to be weird. It's giving us other things rather than the sunshine. But it's fine. If I brought the sunshine to Cape Town, welcome, you Cape Town people. You know, it's like yesterday I was like, who forgot to tell Cape Town that it's spring? But today, it's a nice spring and sunny day. So we'll take that. We will take that. Obviously, you won't see that. I'm in my hotel room, so that's fine. Every Monday, well, now this Monday, I'm going to dub this Monday Squads Monday. But before we do that, we're going to go through all the squads and talk about that. Proteas women playing today at 4 p.m. against Pakistan. World Cup preparation should be good against Pakistan in Multan. So that's going to be quite a key series for them. And currently underway, you can find it on YouTube. SAA playing Sri Lanka A. SAA are currently 316 for 7. That was the end of day one. Just to give a sense, maybe Tim will help. Neil Brunt with a century, 122 off 243 balls. Devil Brevis with a 49. And Marcus Ackerman with a 37. Bear Swanepoel down there with a 35. Don't know what the current score is, Tim. If you know what the current score is, you can let us know.
So they were bowled out for 334, South Africa. Rusty finished on 129, and they had Sri Lanka A at lunch was about an hour ago, 27 for 1.
Okay. Well done to Neil Brunt. It's a much better showing. But we all know with SAA, it's that second innings. So we hope that second innings is not going to be another, okay, what happened there? Squads Monday. We're here. South Africa is about to play. They're in the UAE. They're about to play Ireland. They're also about to play Afghanistan. I'm going to start with Afghanistan. They are playing Afghanistan on Wednesday in the first of 3 ODIs at 2 p.m. South African time. And first one is in Sharjah, day-night game. Second one is on Friday in Sharjah. And the last one is on Sunday. And just reading a story about Tim, but anyway, and it's going to be quite interesting, obviously, because all these human rights abuses in South Africa playing, and it's good to see that the South African Cricketers Association has called to an end to the gender-based discrimination in Afghanistan that excludes women in Afghanistan and playing the sport. And good to hear Timber calling for women's rights to be respected. Obviously, people are saying you need to go one step further, but again, that's a discussion at a higher level, and it's not necessarily for the cricketers who are out there. We're here to discuss the cricket, and so let's talk about the squad. We've got 3 squads we're going to be talking about: the storylines, the drama, the things that have happened over the weekend, or not over the weekend, that happened or not happened, the storylines that they're going to be hoping to change or reaffirm in this Afghanistan series. Tim, before we look at the squads, Afghanistan as an opponent in ODI cricket. We saw how good they are in T20 cricket. Can they translate that to being a force in ODI cricket? We did play them at the last World Cup, and we did beat them quite handsomely. Do you expect the same type or a little bit of an improved performance from Afghanistan?
I think they are extremely well led by Jonathan Trott. Another one from our shores. We do export very well, very, very well.
Yes, we do.
Look, I think it's going to be an interesting series. I think we will win, and I think we will win relatively comfortably, largely due to the fact that I think Afghanistan, for a whole host of reasons, are not getting enough new talent. So they rely on a lot of guys that have been there for a long time. They're not getting a new talent, particularly in the middle order. I think that even though we don't have the Rabadas and Nokias of this world, I still expect us to win and win relatively comfortably.
Yes, most definitely. South Africa played Afghanistan the last time in ODIs at the Cricket World Cup. It was a match at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Afghanistan batted first and they scored 244 in their 50 overs. Azmatullah Omazai scored 97 in that game, which was really, really good. But obviously, as Tim says, that middle order is still very shaky. It's that top order that kind of gives Afghanistan a chance. But to remind you, Quinton scored 41, Timber scored 23, Rassie van der Dissen scored 76, Aiden scored 25, Hanu Clausen scored 10, and we had to go to Van der Dissen and Andile Petlugwayo. They have made us score 24, but Andile Petlugwayo scored 39 of 37 to get us over the line. So it was a lot closer than what we thought the last time. So I'm hoping for a little bit of a challenge. It's also a chance to give guys who haven't had a chance to play a chance to play. And I think that's going to be quite important for Rob in terms of building squad depth. The other players who played in that game, Joe Kutsia, Kesha Maharaj, Kagiso Rabada, and Lungi Ngiti, just giving you some of the bowling figures from the South Africans. Joe Kutsia took 4 for 44, Lungi took 2 for 69, and Keshav 2 for 25, with Andile 1 for 36. Kagiso and Aiden Markram only didn't take wickets, but Kagiso's economy rate was 4 runs and over, which is insane.
Well,
even worse, Kesha's economy rate was 2.5.
If I was right there, that 6 members of that team are not here.
Yes.
So in theory, Afghanistan should have a more of a chance than they did in that World Cup. So that's 6 members that we are without, which undoubtedly will make a difference.
Should we care about this? The world doesn't care about ODI cricket, but should we care about this series?
It's important for Rob. Rob needs consistency. Rob needs to find his, not even his 11, he needs to find his sort of 14, where he knows, okay, these are my 14 players. Those are the ones that I'm going to trust with for the next 12 months. So it's very important for Rob and the rest of the coaching setup. From a fan perspective, I think that's what you're getting at. It's less important. The next World Cup is 50 over World Cup, shall we say, is miles away. It's miles away. So from a fan perspective, less so. I don't think it's that important, but from Rob, it's vitally important because he is now getting a chance to look at the wider pool of talent that is available in South Africa. The guys that are doing well domestically, and if one or two of them have blowout seasons, tours rather, then that's a huge plus for him. Huge plus if they have really good tournaments.
Yes, so Tim, I think we also need to talk about the fact that we've got a Champions Trophy next year in Pakistan. So you want guys on the outside to get a chance, a look in. And in my head, Rob needs to start winning series I'm more worried about his T20 form than his ODI form, but a loss to Afghanistan here could look bad. And with Brendan McCullum now coaching all formats in England, his job might be in a little bit of trouble. But I'm not sure how Shukri feels about doing the white ball stuff. We might just get character cricket again in the white ball, which is not where we want to go. But that's just me. That's just me. Okay, let's look at the squad and have a discussion here. I'm just going to move the banner. Yes, for our audio people, I will read out the squad, but the images are courtesy of CSA. So thank you very much to CSA. Captain Temba Bavuma, Othniel Bartman gets a run in the squad. Nandre Berger is selected as well. Tony DeZorzi, Bjorn Fortain, Reza Hendricks, Aiden Markram, Vian Mulder, Lungin Giti, Andile Pesluguayo, Ngaba Peter, Andile Simelani gets his debut. Jason Smith, Tristan Stubbs, Calvarena, and Lizard Williams. So we're going to break it up into storylines for the batting, the all-rounders, and the bowling. Let's start with the batting, right? Timber's coming back. Timber needs to obviously hasn't played a lot of cricket all year. He's trying to find a way back into formal cricket. So it's an important series for him to kind of just lay the marker down and remind everyone that he's one of the best batters in the country. Tim, Reza Hendricks, Aiden Markram, to a certain extent, I'll include, we'll talk about Vian Mulder later, Jason Smith and Carl Verreynne and Tristan Stubbs. Obviously, you've got a lot of guys who are in the setup, right? Reza, Aiden, Tristan Stubbs in the main setup, but there's guys on the periphery: Vian Mulder, Carl Verreynne, Jason Smith. Jason Smith obviously has been the latest call up. They're trying to give him opportunities, and obviously Kyle trying to put his hand up in a world where there's Ryan Rickleton and there's no way into the side outside of necessarily looking for a replacement for Quinton de Kock. Any other interesting storylines from the batters, Tim?
From the Predators' perspective, no. I think you've nailed it on there. Just show me the squad just for one more time, just so I can get a.
Here you go.
Okay. So you're right. It's going to be interesting to see where Timber's game is at the moment. We know he's a very good white ball player, but hasn't been playing a lot of cricket because of injury. Outside of that, no. From a batting perspective, I suppose you could say Tony has not quite cemented his position. So it's going to be important for both those players for different reasons. Tony needs to make sure that he's picked on a consistent basis, particularly in this format, because everybody knows he's a good stroke player and he plays good shots. He just needs to be perhaps a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, and I think for me that's the key storyline for me is Tony DeZorzi, right? You're going to be batting with Reza Hendricks at the top. You're going to be looking for an opportunity to get yourself in. Ryan Rickleton's not playing in this series, so he's the other incumbent there at the top. He's not playing here. It's going to be quite interesting to see how he's going to do that. Also, there's the thought of Rassie van der Dussen opening the batting. I know a lot of people would have said you would have wanted to see David Bedingham here, or even a Matthew Brzezinski, but I'm assuming county commitments have put them to the side. But for me, this series is quite important. Yes,
I just want to kick in there. That's wide of the mark. Just because people would like to know. I saw some reports that were suggesting that David Bedingham is available for Proteas in all three formats. David Bedingham's priority is the Proteas. He was available for selection. He just wasn't selected. So when it's a strange one when you perform for South Africa A. But as I said, just to put it out there, he was available for selection. He just was not picked in this particular tour.
Okay. So that's also kind of clarifies quite a lot as to where Rob's head is at in relation to that opening slot. You can kind of see where the guys are. But yeah, so that's going to be quite interesting. Obviously, the other and obviously moving to the all rounders, you've got Andile Simelani, Andile Petluguayo, and you've got Vian Mulder. Andile Petluguayo is trying to fight his way back into the side, whereas Vian Mulder is the replacement to Marco Jansen. And the big question for Vian is, we need you to score runs capable enough for you to be in the top 6. And we'll always be asking for that. And he hasn't proven that yet. So the question for me, Tim, is how many more times? And then you've got the phenom, the youngster, Andile Simelani coming in. He's more of a bowling all-rounder. His batting still needs to get up to speed, but you can see that they're looking possibly even further than the Champions Trophy to 2027 to say that Andile Simelani could possibly be an option to come into the side as an all-rounder, lower down the order, maybe as a number 7 or a number 8, depending on where Marco is, to give you an option. Where do you see that all-round stocks, and how do you read into Andile Simelani's selection and Petluguayo selection? Because a lot of people thought Petluguayo was done with the Proteas, but clearly he's not.
Yeah, and his performances for the A side, I think, have sneaked him in here. I think he's shown that he's still got it. He hasn't done it on a consistent basis for the Proteas, but he is still remarkably young. For somebody who's been around for as long as he has, he is still remarkably young. I think he's 27, 28. So if he can find consistency, it makes sense to put him in the squad. I have no issue with that. Simelani's, I don't expect Simelani to play, and they sort of alluded to the fact that this was a experience for him. This was see what it takes to be international cricketer, see what needs to be done. The talent is there. People have seen it now for a couple of seasons that there's something there to work with. But I would be surprised if he played. But it would be a wonderful experience for him. The wider discussion on all-rounders. This is where England went wrong in recent times in the ODI setup, is they packed their team with all-rounders, not with specialized batters, specialized bowlers.
Yeah.
And it actually, it counted against them. So it's very interesting for me that Rob is going in with this many all-rounders in the squad. I'm not necessarily saying it's the wrong decision, because I think all of them deserve a crack. I'm just not sure I would have potentially 3 in an 11, which I think could potentially be the case.
Who would be the third?
Well, so the third would be sort of a bowling all-rounder, so a Bjorn Fortuyn. Somebody who is very useful with the bat, hasn't done it with the Proteas, but it's very, very useful. So that would be my thinking. It would be Vian, Petluguayo, and Bjorn
Fortuyn,
and then
with two quicks,
and then 2 quicks, and then to change it up, you bring Jason in for one of Vian or Petluguayo. So that's an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see if it comes off. And I think, just to the wider point, I think that is why certain individuals have missed out on the squad, because they don't do something else. They do bowling or the batting. They don't do a bit of something else. I think if John Smuts was 25, John Smuts goes into the squad. That's where I think Rob's thinking.
Rob's looking for multifaceted players, right? And
yes.
And Tim, that's my frustration, right? It feels like we are just chasing England, but we're just so behind in every format of the game. Whatever England does, we do. And this is the one format, as you say, where you don't need to follow England, right? And I get his sense. He's worried about once you're 6 down, it's effectively over, right? But then let your batters do the job. That's why you hired them to do, right? And he also doesn't want the whole Russell Domingo thing. Protect the 30 overs, leave as much, don't be as aggressive. Try get yourself to 30, not lose as many wickets in the first 30 overs, and then you can, get the target to 400. And we did quite well last year with that, with that 6-5 split, and Marco being in a 7 that's a little bit too high. I think you can address that with Vian Mulder. The only question is Vian's not a better bowler than Marco, and at the Protea level, he doesn't bat better than Marco. So then what's the point of Vian having Vian at 7? Because it's a revolving door. So you just need to figure out ways in which to strengthen that. And if Vian's batting became a lot stronger, it would create an argument because Marco goes into your 3 quicks argument, and then you have your spinner, other way around. That's your 4th, right? And then you have that all-rounder. Either you drop one of your 3 quicks and you take a 2nd spinner, but that all-rounder is always going to be there. And Marco's given us that option for him to be always there because as the all-rounder, he just can't bat it. He has to bat at 7. His batting is getting there. It's just you just need to take him time. With him being rested here, it creates a conundrum because I don't think Vian can bat at 7. He should, but I think it's going to be just dramatic. And then the other thing is, how does Jason Smith fit into this team as a batter? And to a certain extent, I think he's going to be the reserve batter in that 6. I think Carl's playing there as the keeper. You've got Tristan probably at 5 or 6, and then you've got Timber at 3 with Reza and Tony opening, Aiden at 4, Tristan at 5, and Carl keeping the gloves at 6. And then 7, it was most likely going to be Vian, and I'm still not convinced. I think this guy is enjoying Protea life because we don't have that many all-rounders. And Andile Petluga is not good enough to bat at 7. And so it's this age-old question. But let's move to the bowlers, right? So no Keshav. You've got Bjorn Fortuin. You've got Ngaba Peter as your 2 spinners. Then you've got Bartman, Berger, Ngidi, as well as Lazard Williams as your quicks. Most likely 2 will get to play, or 3. So I think we'll play with, depending on the conditions, right? If Ngaba Peter plays, we'll have 2 seamers plus 1 of Andile and Vian. That's how I see it, right? But if we're going to go in with 1 spinner, it's most likely going to be Ngidi, Bartman, and Berger. And Lazard's going to be the reserve. Do you see it that way? And to a certain extent, for me, when I look at it, it's for Lungi to remind everyone how great he is, and Rob's giving him that opportunity to get the reps. They were telling us that he hasn't bowled enough. You need to get him to bowl enough. So that's it for Lungi. For Bartman and Berger is for them to then say, we're the next crop up. We know what Gerald can do. We know what Kagiso can do. We know what Anur can do when he comes back from his hiatus, right? Marco as well, right? That's the 4. Bartman and Berger are trying to get into that, and Lungi as well, to say, hey, we're the 6. I'm part of the 6. There's 4 slots. I think there's 2 slots available for the 6 that you will always reliably look to as the Proteas pace barrage. Lazard Williams probably will get a game, one of those. He also is fighting for that spot, but I think out of the 4, he's the one who's probably going to play the least.
I can't disagree with anything there. I think you've hit it spot on. It's going to be interesting to see whether Rob comes up with something different, because I think you're right. I think that's the way it's going to be. I just wonder whether he's going to throw a rabbit out of the hat here, and I wonder if he's going to throw caution to the wind, in the sense that, regardless of the conditions, he's going to say to both spinners, you're playing the entire series. You're playing all the games. You're playing together. Mm-hmm. It's a shootout. That's what I wonder if that's going to be a question, because the reason I say that is because I think Peter is now at a position where he could easily come into that 11 and people would not frown upon that selection. Whereas I've said it for a while now, Bjorn has performed at an extremely high level for the Lions for many, many years. There's a reason why he picked up the awards he did in this recently CSA awards. There's a reason why he did that, because he performed brilliantly. But when it's come to the Proteas, for whatever reason, it hasn't quite clicked for him. He's done all right with the ball, and he definitely has not backed up his genuine lower order runs ability with the bat. So I wonder if he's going to say to both of them, right, this is your chance. I'm going to play both of you. It's not necessarily going to turn square, but I'm going to give you both a chance because I don't want one of you to sit on the bench.
Does that not weaken the batting or weaken the bowling, essentially? Because you then have to go with your two quicks and then one of Vian and Andile. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm not comfortable with it, but I just wonder if Rob's looking at the bigger picture. I wonder if Rob's looking at 2027 and less so on Champions Trophy. If he's looking at 2027, that in the long term might be the way to go. By the time 2027 comes around, Bjorn may not be available. He may not be at that level. Whereas I think Peter will be. I really do think this boy has got a long, long future ahead of him.
What does this say about Tabrez? Because obviously, I hear you on Bjorn. I think it's very hard to live in the shadow of Keshav with how great Keshav has been, right? And if Keshav's not there, I can't tell you that Bjorn doesn't get to the levels of Keshav, but we can see from a competition perspective, he hasn't been able to get there, even with the opportunities he has been given. And the opportunities he gets are games like this. There's 6 matches, Tim, 3 against Ireland, 3 against Afghanistan. And, we're asking Bjorn to be like, hey, prove to us that you are good enough, at least better than Tabrez, right? And so the question is, which is interesting, is that Shamsi's not here. And so is this also an indication that Rob is saying we might be moving in a different direction?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. I think the quotes that he said when the squads were announced, and I think those were, for me, they were most interesting, was he's looking to see, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he's looking to see how the more experienced players perform in this series. And I think that's a nod to people like Bjorn, Rassi, and Reza. For various reasons, there are question marks around their selection. And I think it's a nod to them saying, if you want to be in the discussion in 2026, 2027, you need to perform in this series. You can't wait until the next one. It might only be Afghanistan and Ireland, with all due respect to them. You need to perform in this series if I'm going to continue to pick you.
And it's 6 games. And if you look at the changes to the Ireland series, it's Rassi coming in and Aiden and Reza going out, right? And Rassi and Ryan coming in and Aiden and Reza going out. So it's going to be quite interesting to see the shootout between Tony and Ryan for the top of the order, because they'll be batting together. And then obviously you've got Rassi van der Dis, and the question is, where's he going to fit into this 11? He might fit in at number 4. And Rassi has been badly maligned. Man has been our best ODI player for the last 5 years, yet he is the first one to get dropped. We forget he averaged 75 in the first 2 years of him playing cricket. And you're like, no, but time is gone. Rassi has not stopped scoring runs. And it's the most frustrating thing when we look at Rassie getting moved around in the ODI setup. Like, he's done nothing wrong. Even in T20s, yes, he's slow, but he scores runs at a very good strike rate. And so is it time for Rassie to remind us how good he is by bullying poor Afghanistan and Ireland, or bullying Ireland, because he's not even playing. He's not even good enough to play Afghanistan.
I think so, and I think so because of the types of individuals and players that are available. You're right. He has absolutely performed. I mean, 2019 average of 73, 2020 average of 43, 2021 average of 57, 2022 average of 79. Last year averaged just under 40. The man has been so consistent. It is unreal. But when you have people like Ruben Herman, Jordan Herman, Matthew Gibritsky, David Bellingham, at your availability and the way they go about the game, they go about the game the way the game is going. They go about the game in an attacking fashion. They go about the game taking risks. They go about the game in a way the modern game in general is moving towards. And time doesn't wait for anybody. That's the fact. I do think I said it a few weeks ago. I'd be surprised if I'm thinking, because we're talking about ODIs at the moment, I'm thinking if Reza and Rassie are both in 2027, I'm going to be very, very, very surprised if both of them are in that squad. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm not saying they can't make it. But because of the sort of players that we have at our availability, and the fact that they have been performing domestically and in SA20 and in county cricket, I'd be surprised if both of those individuals are there in 2027. So for me, it's a big series for Rassie. It's a very, very big series for him.
I feel it's unfair. I really do. And I say this in where we'll play. So the Proteas are in a world where Aiden Markham is still in there and his ODI numbers still are a little shaky. But they're better than his test record, so that's fine. But my question obviously should this not be a straight shootout between Aiden and Rassie? Because if Rassie's good enough to play, I'm not ageist. I'm not ageist, right? You people asking for Faf to play at age 40. If Rassie is still scoring runs at age 37 at the next World Cup or 38 at the next World Cup, let him play. If the youngsters want to get into the side, they must knock the door down. Do what David Bellingham did. David Bellingham scored nearly 200 runs against the Sri Lanka A that actually looks like a Sri Lanka side that we might see late in the year. But David Bellingham is still not in the squad. So, but we can name all these names, Brzezinskis, the Jordan Hanmans. Are they knocking the door down? And I don't think they are. And my question is, Rassie does this at an international level. Rassie saved us countless times at the last World Cup, but yet he's the one who still needs to prove himself. Which I think we're just disrespecting Rassie as a South African public. But anyway, that's fine. Let's move on to the final squad, which is the T20 squad for Ireland. 3 T20s against Ireland. The team is Captain Aiden Markham, Othniel Bartman, Matthew Brzezinski comes into the side, Nandre Berger, Bjorn Fortuin, Reza Hendricks, Patrick Kruger gets another call-up. He's having an incredible winter. Vian Mulder, Lungin Giti, Ngaba Peter, Ryan Rickleton, Andile Simelani again, probably the apprenticeship type of situation. Jason Smith comes in. Hopefully he'll get more than one game. Tristan Stubbs and Lazard Williams. Tim, this is largely similar to the West Indies side. The side that played the West Indies against Ireland should be a little bit easier. The only addition here is Andile Semelani coming in. What do you make of this side? Because I look at the side, I'm like, okay, cool, similar faces to the West Indies. We're still so far behind with the West Indies. Is this an opportunity for Rob to try and realign and give guys one more chance? Because I know Patrick Kruger put his hand up Wait, sorry. Is it Vian Mulder in there? He is. Okay. I know Patrick Kruger put his hand up, but is it a situation of, okay, because I looked at that West Indies series and I like the guys. I know we're resting our main bowlers and some of our batters, but is this a situation of, look, let's give them opportunity and let's run this again, even though we saw what we saw in the West Indies, and there's nothing that can take you away from what we saw in the West Indies, and some of it wasn't pretty.
Yes. This is a big series for a couple of people. A very big series. So I just touched on Matthew Britsky. Admittedly, this is more his format than the 50 overs. So this is a huge opportunity for him to go to Reza and say, "I'm the new boy. You've had your time. You've had your career. I'm the new boy on the block. I've gone to England. I've had a fantastic time over there in a T20 format, Vitality Blast. I'm in good form. I'm making runs in this format.
Mm-hmm.
This is my time. I didn't do it against the West Indies, and that's on me. But this is now another chance for me. And the other one for me is a huge series because I do get the impression a little bit that his career is a little bit potentially at a crossroads. I think potentially he could go the league, right? T20 leagues. I hope he doesn't.
Who,
I just think that, no, not Britsky. No, I think Ryan. I think
Ryan,
Ryan
yes.
Could go that way. He's got the game to do that. He's got the game to become the international T20 player. Did not have a good series against the West Indies. We don't have to, that's just a fact. He needs to perform. He genuinely needs to perform. I really hope he does. There's a player there. There's a world-class player in there. But at the moment, he just seems, particularly with that West Indies series, he seemed to be trying too hard. We did allude to that fact when we did the series review. He just needs to relax for me. Relax.
Well, how can you relax when we don't even know if Quinton's in or out? Every press conference with the T20 squad, is he in? Is he out? No, we don't know.
Focus on your own game. I get it, and you're right. Focus on your own game.
But then what's the point? Because here's the thing, right? Ryan's lived in Quinton's shadow his entire time, right? He's tried to make it into the squad, even though some batters were off form at the time, and he didn't get the chance. They elevated Reza, who he competed against and was better than in a T20 format. Even in the ODI, in the One Day Cup, he was better than Reza, but we still persisted with Reza. He hasn't been given the opportunity that we've gotten with his other teammates, Rassi and Temba, but we've never given him the free reign to say, no, this is your spot for the next year or so. Largely because we all sit there going, but we've got Quinton, and obviously Aiden he's the captain. So even though there was a point where we didn't know he could play T20 cricket, and Ryan's been consistent domestically over that period, and they've always picked someone ahead of him. And Matthew Britsky is the next one. And I'm sure people are going to be crying for Jordan Hadman. And so my question is, if I'm Rob, I'm saying, I'm not going with Quinton, I'm going with Ryan. And that's it. If Quinton's gone to if Quinton wants to be flip-floppy or flaky, I'm going with Ryan. And yes, you can say I'm a Lions fan, but that's the type of risk you need to take, right? Give him the security, because Ryan wants security, right? He doesn't want you to be flip-flopping. At the Lions, he's secure. He knows what his role is. He executes it in a team of superstars. And it's just one level up. He's just with better superstars. And yes, he's trying too hard, and I get it. But in your head, I can score 100, I can score 200. I know that if Quinton walks back through the door, I'm getting pushed off. If Reza comes back, I'm getting pushed off. There's no way for me to kind of cement my place in the side and say, I'm one of your top 6 batters, because we're still trying to give Tristan Stubbs a chance. even though in T20s Tristan Stubbs hasn't done anything. We're still, talking about ceiling. Devin Miller's cemented. Aiden is cemented by virtue of him being captain, which I can question. That's fine. And he was in the team because he could bowl off spin. Ryan can't do that. He's a keeper, right? Heinrich Klaassen is the best batter in the world. You can't fight that. The only two positions you can fight for are the openers. And he's been better than those openers. We went into the World Cup not knowing if Quinton de Kock could even do what Quinton de Kock does. But we trusted that, and he came through, right? And we saw what Rizzo was doing at the World Cup, and we were asking for Ryan to play. And Ryan didn't play, and he only got one game. He made a mistake, as cricket always does and teaches you. It's naturally a game of failure. Your successes are like 20% of the rest of your scores, and Ryan's in the wilderness. And so he's gonna, if he bullies Ireland, great, but it doesn't tell him or me or any of the fans if Ryan deserves to be in the side. Because it's Ireland. Because that's what everyone's going to say. Even with the Afghanistan series, right? If Ugg score big runs, everyone's like, but it was Afghanistan, this, that, and the next thing. And fundamentally, for Ryan, I want him to play all three games. I want him to play in the ODI side. I think he's really important for both teams. But unfortunately, we're not, as Tim says, you want to move into the future. I'm like, if you want to move into the future, Ryan Rickleton's your future. Let go of that old man Quinton if it is. I'm not ageist, but if you want to let go of old people, he's the first one to let go of. Reza's the next. But we can't be speaking these youngsters without giving Ryan a fair share. And I don't think Ryan's been given a fair shake. And the series goes to speak to Ryan not being given a fair shake. Ryan also needs to play in those T20s and ODIs at the end of the year. And also against India. He needs to be told the whole year you're going to be playing. Right? And we'll assess in January when SA20 comes as to whether you're good or not. Okay. Also, it doesn't help that in SA. And that's the thing. Because you can see it with SA20. You can see it with the Lions. What's happening here? It's a difference with Vian Mulder. Vian Mulder, literally, that step up kills him. With Ryan, it's like, no, it's there. It's just we need. If Ryan had the same backing that we backed Aiden and Vian, Ryan would be one of the best batters in the world. And that's my frustration with the system. But it's the same frustration we had with Reza because the numbers game. But that's what it is too.
No, you make very valid points. I've always said. To be fair, I've always said that we mustn't be shy to play two keepers. I'm not gonna tell you who I want to keep between Quinton and Ryan. I don't think it's a massive difference. So I'd be very happy if both played. Very, very happy. But you're right. It's not that easy. The only thing I would say is I think potentially in T20 cricket, maybe less so one. I think in T20 cricket, Reza's star might be diminishing. This last year was his worst. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was his worst since 2017 in terms of average and in strike rate. His strike rate this year in T20 cricket was under 120. So the only thing I would say is you could then say, Reza, we want you for 2027, but we don't want you for 2026 in T20 cricket. They could go Ryan and Quinton, assuming Quinton is available. So there is an argument to say that they could both play, and they could both be very, very successful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Tim, I think. Do you have any final thoughts before we close off the podcast about these? Because obviously we've got 2 weeks of Proteas cricket, but should we care? Do you have any final thoughts around how we should navigate through this next 2 weeks? Because they're going to be quite weird.
Yeah, look, they're sort of very sort of congested. These tours, very, very close together. I'm very interested to know how the French guys get on. I'm less interested on the Rezas and Russes of this world. I'm very interested to see, assuming they get the game time, the Patrick Krugers, the Gabby Peters, the Jason Smiths of this world. I want to see them perform at this level. If they perform at this level, that's a huge plus for Rob. It's a headache for Rob because it makes selection for the next series more difficult, but having more players to pick is always a good thing.
Yeah. And that's essentially what we want, to have more players to pick throughout there. But anyway, it's been heated, but we love it when it's heated. Yeah, good luck to the Proteas in the UAE against Afghanistan as well as Ireland. To all the French players, may give us something memorable that we will remember you by. Remember, this was the time where Timber scored his 100 against his first ever international 100 against Ireland, and it started his reign in ODI cricket. He has been very good at the top of the order for South Africa, and may this be an opportunity for someone to also do the same. Outside of that, that's the end of our podcast. Thank you very much, Tim. But remember, please follow us on Full Quarter Pod on X. Subscribe to Full Quarter Podcast on YouTube. On X, we give updates to what's happening. So interact with us. We really love the interaction. Also on YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And then on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please do follow. And then also, please, to help us keep this train going, please help buy us some coffee. We appreciate any contribution at buymeacoffee.com/Full Quarter Podcast. Tim, it's been great.
Just one
Yes?
one last thing. The Anton Roux has joined the Proteas setup for these for these tours as the fielding coach. I think it's the fielding coach. So he was with Sri Lanka right up until about 2 weeks ago. He was the fielding coach of Sri Lanka. He worked with Rob at Otago Volts when Rob was in New Zealand. So just an update on the changes to the coaching setup.
What happened to who was the former Lions coach?
These are. It's not the fact that Quavu has been released. It's more a case of this particular series. He's available. There's a lot of movement. So JP Jumini is back as batting coach. JP Jumini was because he had to go home for personal reasons, so he wasn't there in the West Indies. There's a movement. It's not Quavu has been released.
Yeah, there's movement at CSA as well. There's a new board chairperson and two new board members, so hopefully that will help as well. But CSA is on a good run. We're now just trying to get the Proteas on a good run, and I think these series will help try and build that base. But yeah, anyway, remember, I told you, follow us on X, subscribe to our YouTube channel, buy us some coffee, and also follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Outside of that, it's good night, goodbye, and le sale kakahiso.